5 months ago, I did a video that was back in Shenzhen about what are things that NIO needs to do now in order to regain trust of investors and get back some confidence. So it's about 3 promises that NIO has made in the past and they haven't met it so far. And I said there are 3 things that they need to do, and this is about, delivering on their promises. One was about delivering the 150 kilowatt-hour battery. More on that later in the video. The second one was that I thought they should actually do a little bit more on the area of autonomous driving and NAD, which they also promised actually to release a little bit earlier and haven't done so far. And last but not least, I said, of course, we need to see a turnaround in sales. Well, it seems that NIO is actually now heading towards these, at least my personal expectations. I cannot speak on your behalf or anybody else's behalf, but I think, these are really 3 major milestones for NIO to hit still this year in order to really, gain back some of the confidence of investors. And in my point of view, with those latest news, we're actually almost getting there. So I want to take this video a little bit off, saying why I think this is currently happening with the latest news that we're getting here. For example, now the 150 kilowatt hour battery that has been unveiled, not officially yet in a way, but they have now done an official live stream and test today where Li Bin was taking a huge journey, driving more than 1,000 kilometers.
差不多。对，已经1000公里，我看群里面已经这个各种。这个谢谢大家，谢谢大家，所以谢谢大家的鼓励。我在这个关键1000公里达成。对，在这个
validating publicly what has been previously done, in private by NIO employees with all of the NIO models, that this new technology for batteries, this is a hybrid solid-state battery, is actually working. It's technically feasible, and it's working not only in some artificial circumstances, no, it's working in real life under just normal uncontrolled driving conditions. So that's what happened today with Li Bin. And so I suppose we might see the official launch, as I said, on NIO Day, where they possibly will announce that they might introduce these batteries into the swap stations maybe around the Chinese New Year. So that would make a lot of sense to have a long trip battery there, which of course is more in small sizes. This is not for the mass market. This will be small numbers initially in the beginning. This is a very new piece of technology. This is a very expensive battery as well, but this is a major technological breakthrough here. So there's nobody else who's doing that currently in a actual consumer good. And this battery, of course, has some advantages when it comes to safety because of the fact that it's a hybrid solid-state battery. But of course, the main thing as a USP for users here, the selling proposition is that this will carry you more than 1,000 kilometers in one take without having to charge or to swap. And what's also unique for NIO here is that, of course, they can introduce it into the battery system, battery swap system, as I mentioned, and then users can pay and rent it maybe just for a journey. They don't need to own this battery. They don't have to pay this large sum. I think possibly that's the rumors that we've heard, that this might be around the price of an ET5, the battery alone, right? So NIO has this advantage here that they can introduce such a technology into the market that no other non-battery swappable vehicle maker could actually do, because it wouldn't make sense for anybody except for the ultra-rich to actually own such a car. But with the rental scheme, so the amortization will actually be split and spread amongst its users, and that will, in my point of view, also help to trickle down this technology more into a broader range of users, and at some point in time, of course, costs will with that come down, and that is really one of the major breakthroughs here for NIO, a validation for the battery swap system, because also now each and every user from the very first generational model can now swap in this battery and get 1,000 kilometers plus in range. Again, this test has been done in normal conditions, so that was, I think, at some point also -degrees. It's driving in winter in China, and during summer this will have even better ranges. Of course, the speed was limited a little bit, so not ultra fast driving there like on the German Autobahn maybe. However, this is a piece of performance here for those who really want it. I would say, also have just a rational take. Nobody wants to drive 10 to 14 hours at what this battery can do in one go, and 1,000 kilometers. Of course, you want to take a break in between. So it's not really about that you need to have this coverage of 1,000 kilometers, but it's more about what this technology can actually do and perform. And NIO has done that. NIO has committed to it and announced it, and now they have also delivered to it. And I think that will help to re-establish trust in the management, because it's not about only doing some fancy announcements and PPTs like PowerPoints and so on. No, they're actually doing this, and this is also a testimonial to NIO's R&D efforts. And speaking of that, we now need to recap a little bit where we are, right? NIO has been pronounced dead. It's if you look at the share price, if you look the relative to the trading valuation multiples and so on, it doesn't make sense where it's trading currently, unless there's a super big amount of fear around the stock, which actually is the case. So, but if you're just being rational, what NIO has done with all of these investments, they have built more than 2,300 battery swap stations that are live, that are carrying this new technology now, that can be swapped into each and every NIO sold already. By the way, users may now not only get the benefit of this new technology, but also hopefully at some point the benefit that the resale value of NIOs will be much better, because people will actually see that you can this vehicle is actually upgradable. You can upgrade it over time whenever a new technology comes out. And so this battery swap system was a huge investment, which they have done before everybody else has invested in charging, where, by the way, NIO still is the largest private charging network in China, even larger than Tesla. And now we have the new players which are currently doing well on the sales side, like Li Auto, also jumping into the EV segment. We have a couple of new regulations that are limiting the abilities over time of range extended vehicles like Li Auto, because some of the subsidies are going away, and I'm personally hoping that we'll see every city in China actually also going away of giving green license plates to range extended vehicles or plug-in hybrids. But that's a little bit of a side issue here. I want to talk more about this R&D efforts now. This battery is one part of it. Another one is the battery swap systems that I have invested in, and which I think will possibly see something on NIO Day announced. This battery swap system 4.0, I call it, which might be the multi-brand one running on Alps at the NT 3.0 platform. And we'll see what types of innovation they will bring with that new battery swap system. It seems to be between different EV architectures, 400 volt, 800 volt, and different battery packs, and then also being able to go multi-OEM, multi-brands with all of the announcements that we've seen recently, the partnerships, right? So all of that seems to be following a long-term trend and plan, as well as the purchase of the factory, which some people, want to turn into a weak story in terms of that JAC didn't want to continue partnering with NIO, but I would say it's actually just another puzzle piece of what NIO has put together. I mentioned before how I've learned more than half a year ago that NIO is actually planning to take those factories more in-house and own more of its manufacturing capabilities. Also the fact that they have acquired another factory and a license, which now has become the NIO manufacturing license in 2022 already, tells me that this is not a short-term struggle that just has came up and NIO was panicking. No, in fact, they have planned for it. And it's now confirmed with the earnings call, which I've covered, that NIO is acquiring these assets. And so they also taken this piece, this critical piece in their point of view now in-house and invested into it. What else have we done? We've seen the NIO phone, which has been developed and launched successfully and has been receiving very high praise, though, I would say, even from you know, some phone reviews and KOL, key opinion leaders in China. We know that they have developed 2 sub-brands which are close to being launched. Well, you know, some of this might be some months and years out in the future until we actually see the cars on the road, but I would say a large chunk of the investment has already been done and should be kind of in the books of the NIO business as well. And to my other point that I've mentioned in the video, and another R&D investment on autonomous driving, I have recently posted quite a few videos about NIO NOP Plus, the beta version, going into the cities. So I've experienced myself driving the NOP Plus beta on highways in China, and some of them being highways going through the city, which is you know, mainly still relating to HD maps. However, very recently we see videos by users coming out following the strategy announced by NIO on the NIO Innovation Day, where Ren Shaoxing, the head of autonomous driving, actually explained the routes that are going down, of letting users verify and validate some of the inner city routes, and actually even creating a sort of a fleet computing with the orange chips. Parts of this idle compute power can be accessed in order to create a network of all of those users, a unique network at this high scale of hardware that nobody else has in the industry. So NIO right now has like 10x of compute power in each vehicle compared to a Tesla vehicle, for example, and also you know, the high scale cameras and so on, and the LiDAR, of course. So that's quite a unique setup. And finally, we're now also seeing those images or the footage, the moving images coming out. Although I would really love to see even longer drives and even areas where there is problems. But it's still very exciting to see some of the capabilities. You know, in some aspects, the car still behaves quite, I would say, conservative in my point of view, but that's okay, because NIO always takes safety as the #1 issue when it comes to autonomous driving. And still, I want to see this progress over time. And for me, you know, following up with my video in Shenzhen, this now is kind of the first, you know, the real validation that's currently happening live in the market, and that's exactly what I've wanted to see. It's maybe not NAD, what they've announced before. That might be the final product at some point in time. However, you can say that this is really the right step towards it. So I would say, at least in my books, this checks another check mark here on yeah, what I've said is my personal expectation, and how NIO could gain back trust in order that they're actually, you know, now starting to deliver on some of these promises, and still within this year. So all of these things that I've done, the huge investments in the battery swapping, the huge investments in 8+1 model, we might see another model coming out on NIO Day, which might be sort of a ultra deluxe luxury Maybach version, so a huge car with some innovative technology. I think we might actually see some announcements regarding NIO's own silicon, so its own chips regarding autonomous driving, maybe coupled with that, and also coupled with that new car, possibly also the 150 kilowatt hour official announcement that has now been demonstrated today. And you know, they've done all of that now, and still, as we know, after the earnings call, are left with around $6 billion USD in the bank. So I think this will annoy quite a few people, to be honest, because NIO is just this cockroach of a company that's doing so much, where people are freaking out about how this is not efficient, this is too much add-on, this is gimmicky, you know, everything possible that is just coming from this vision by Li Bin. And frankly, I personally love that he's like so stubborn and following all of this stuff that he's basically been saying in the past that he wants to build. For me, the more important thing is that they're actually building it, right? And there have been question marks around it. And so last but not least, of course, the latest missing piece are the sales. That was the #3 point that I mentioned in my Shenzhen video. Yes, the sales have recovered, you know, substantially over 10K, closer to 15K, at some points at 20K, but seriously still below, of course, the 20K that they have at some earnings call set that they are confident that they can reach. And so, yeah, that might be, of course, still the last question mark and the most important question mark for in investors in general to win back all of the trust necessary for the stock price also to take off. But I just pointed out how much else this company has actually been achieving, which we should recognize. And frankly, with 6 billion in the bank, it's not looking that bad, to be honest. Not as bad as the stock price wants you to believe it. And a simple fact is also after the earnings call that we now see the net losses going down and getting smaller. And if that should continue on this trajectory, like actually the analysts are actually also projecting in their napkin business cases and so on, let's hope that it's going to be a sequential decline in the net income and not such a bumpy ride that we will get some expansions of net losses again and again in between, but still the trend will be down towards a break even. If that's really working out in the next couple of months, I think this, of course, will be a turning point then in this regard, and will be very, very difficult to hold this company down much longer, because with this launch of the 150 kilowatt hour battery, they have to demonstrate tech leadership that even a Toyota doesn't pull off. They're just talking about solid state batteries, which even Tesla, they have some innovation with the 4680, with the structural pack and so on. Usually much more geared towards the cost side of things, of course. But now that NIO is starting to deliver on these promises and meeting those deadlines and the promises, I think this could really be a major point in turning the sentiment. At least that's what I kind of feel in, for example, my Patreon community, where the last couple of weeks and months in the chats, it's been quite emotional on the downside, and I've explained before that some of it is really not in the hands of NIO, but also in the macroeconomic sphere and what's happening there, and that might be still a problem in the coming months or even years, who knows. The stock market is still just carried by a handful of companies in the US, and I think that's not very balanced if you look at valuations on a global scale or in different segments of large caps versus small caps. I would argue there should be some sort of a more equilibrium where we see that across the board, hopefully valuations can normalize, but currently we're certainly not there, right? And so, this might be the future, the next couple of weeks and months, hopefully, where we might hopefully see with NIO Day, with more of these deadlines, that sentiment can turn pretty quickly. Also with, let's say, if the stock should surge a little bit, then the opinion suddenly follows trend and so on, right? So that's the opportunity here. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, because NIO is always very volatile, and let's say maybe we have issues with NIO in Q1 where the sales are traditionally quite low, and that's of course also a very easy target then for some of the media companies that are trying to talk down the EV revolution, talking down Chinese EVs, or once again focusing on NIO's investments and the net losses produced and so on. So there are still many issues that this stock and company has to work through, but I hope I have kind of summarized well and pointed out a couple of recent developments that are actually now really starting to catch up with some of these, in my point of view, now less and less founded or well-argued fears, uncertainties, and doubts. But let me know in your comments, in the comment section, what you worry about, or where you think NIO has failed still, or where you think NIO has, despite, let's say, only 30% year-over-year growth, has failed this year, or what you want them to achieve still, or what you want to see for NIO Day to get you excited. Thanks for watching and for your support. See you in the next videos, and bye.